Lads, we are back. It's the three of us together again for the first time in what's felt like forever.
Yeah,
It has. Wow.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Been a couple weeks.
I don't know what to do anymore. Like what do I usually do?
You say, I don't know. I say we're back. You say, I don't know, Alex says something, then you say something. I don't even remember how it
We're
goes.
then
David Backus.
And
Yes.
then, yeah, Daniel will make a pun with the back.
Yeah,
We're
then I get
Nikita
disappointed.
Sherback.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, and then I bury my head in my hands because I can't believe what I've just heard.
We're Jacob Forsbacka Carlson back.
No, you could have
was
just said
close.
we're Jacob Force back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You stumbled at the 1 yard
did.
line there.
It was the
That wasn't
pressure.
good. So
Pressure.
it's kind of slow around the NHL now. So fun fact, I was looking at our episode count. This is technically, I believe, the 196th episode we've ever recorded.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty nuts.
That's incredible. And it started off, I think, was it the first or second episode where we got into an argument about is Patrice Bergeron, was it top 5 or top 10?
I think I was saying he was top 5. The top 5
Yeah.
centerman.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I was saying he was not.
Yes.
We've
That's
come
how-
a long ways.
Arguing about freaking top 15 lists from NHL.com in the midst of summer.
195 episodes, and I think we've improved.
I think we have.
Somehow.
We're so young back then.
So young.
Yeah. Before
I didn't even have a mic.
Yeah. Before
Yeah.
Not a Mike Jagasar, but a mic for this.
Before the Leafs absolutely made me the most cynical person when it comes to hockey.
Yeah, you listen to those early episodes, and Alex still has a bit of life left in him. But now it's like, oh no.
Can I tell you what's very relevant right now in
Let's
this
hear it.
summer when I
Let's hear
went back on our old episodes?
Let's hear it.
What?
My first episode on here, I called it that they were going to trade everybody in Columbus, and like Seth Jones doesn't want to resign there.
Wow. But that was, I want to say it was episode 15 or 16 around that point. Was it?
Mhm. I think so,
Does
around
that
there.
sound
I was.
right?
It was when we were allowed in people's houses. You know,
Correct.
remember that?
Yes. I remember you showed up with your laptop, or you didn't show up with a laptop. You showed up with a notebook. I remember
Okay,
that.
yeah. I showed up with a notebook. And what's funny though is the first few episodes I did,
Yeah.
I was never sent the topics. So like literally, I was like going in blindly to every episode.
But I believe that. I don't think we were as organized.
I'm not gonna admit that, but I'm not gonna deny it.
Okay,
It was
I wasn't
before
as
the Google
organized. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was before I was organized.
Mhm. Okay. Well, we have stuff to talk about today. We're gonna look at Daniel's Team Canada because he wasn't here last week. Hopefully, goes a bit more smoothly than Mike's impromptu one last episode, because that was great. But first off, remember how like we have helmet ads in the NHL and we all
Yeah.
kind of forgot about it a week into the season because they were never a big deal?
Yeah.
Well, this one's going to be a bit harder to miss. So the NHL are officially getting ads on jerseys for the 2022-2023 season. Apparently, there are the latest major U.S. sport. Well, obviously, Adam, their latest sports league to do this. We know the NBA did this around, I think it was 2017-18. It's going to be a rectangle that's 3 by 3.5 inches. You may see some AHL teams actually have that sort of setup. It's just a bit larger than some of the NBA patches they have. I think we were all kind of concerned that this was going to happen. I think most people want to leave the jerseys alone.
Yeah.
But you just kind of hope that it stays at a patch and we don't turn into Europe.
Where like the ad,
European hockey, you mean, right?
or are you talking about soccer?
And some
Football. Sorry, Alex.
there are a lot more like overseas. I mean, there are a lot of leagues that like in North America, it's like, no, if I watch baseball, like how much sponsorships are on like a Jays jersey, right?
Just Nike, because Nike can afford that.
There's a reason for that, though, right?
Yeah, money.
Yeah, because this league makes minimal money compared to the other. I'm just like, that's the reason. Like, let's not kid ourselves. That's the only reason they're doing it.
Yeah.
Make us buy a new jersey.
I'm not gonna. Man, honestly, I'm happy I have my Caulfield jersey because I do not want to buy a jersey with an advertisement company on it.
An interesting thing they do in, I I know they do it in Germany. I'm not sure about like the Premier League and the other leagues, but obviously, other than the main logo that's on the front of the soccer jersey, sometimes they actually have patches on the side of sponsors. But when you actually go buy the jersey, you can get that
Really?
you can get that not put on. I don't know, because I have a couple of jerseys from Germany, but I'm not entirely sure if that's the case for the other leagues. I'd imagine that would be the case in the NHL, especially if it's going to be in the front corner. Like if it's on the side, that's one thing, but if it's on like the upper chest area, I can really see them saying, if you don't want that, you don't have to do it.
By the way, people who are going to be smart asses and say, oh, but like if it's an Adidas jersey, that's much different from having like Bell or whatever on like the top thingy of your torso.
Sun Life Financial on the Raptors.
Exactly.
Just to put it out there, we were in agreement that the NHL is extremely uncreative and that it will be the exact same sponsor as the helmet ads. Or do you actually think they're going to do something different?
Well, okay. What do you guys think? Like, so Scotiabank's definitely going to be there for the Leafs.
Yeah,
what would be the secondary one?
Like the one
opinion?
on the jersey?
Yeah, in your opinion.
Ooh. Okay. So I saw some people throwing out OVO, but I think that's Raptors, and I don't think they're going to go that way. But
yeah,
I can very well see them going with Justin Bieber's clothing line as like if we're not going Scotiabank, if they want to do something creative, that's what I would do, since he's tied to the team in multiple ways.
Yeah. How about you, Adam, for the Habs?
Well, the two big ones are like Saint Hubert and like Desjardins, which is like another.
They just have a chicken leg, no?
Well, that's what Laval have, is they just have the chicken from Saint Hubert's, which is like, it's a little distracting. Like let me put it like this: if you're watching a game like at that speed and in real time, you're not going to notice it that much, but it's just going to be so silly if like between play there's like a zoom in and here's like serious like Jack Petrie and there's just this chicken. Like I'm not going to lose my mind and threaten to stop watching the game. Like, people are going to do and have already started to do. It's just something like I like put your whatever on, the gloves, the pants. I just leave my jerseys alone. But I mean, it's a necessary evil, especially with just how messy that financials are in the league. And I don't think technically are jerseys technically part of hockey related revenue when it comes to escrow and that.
Oh, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, I think so. That's why we had a retro reverse.
Yeah, the league needs to make money and the players have to pay back some money.
Well, the salary cap has to magically go up at $1 million at the end of the year, even though the players still owe the owners $1 billion.
Yeah, and it's just going to get worse and worse.
Casual debt right there.
So, I don't like it, guys. I don't like it. But again, there are worse things to happen. Again, like, let's just not turn into just like, I don't know. Another good way of putting it is like, if you watch Formula One, and it's just here are these like, oh God, here's the Shell Ferrari one here, here's AMG and everything on Mercedes, and you're like, okay, this is a bit silly. Very silly. But I mean, then again, like, has anyone really been distracted with the advertisements on the boards when watching a game? Not really.
How about the help? I'd be curious to see how many people have actually noticed the helmet advertisements.
I remember going on.
No, go ahead.
No, I just remember the joke. A lot of people were saying that like they don't like the Scotiabank on the Leafs one. They're like, it looks like a senator, like logo.
There are definitely some where it depends on. I think Pittsburgh's had some blue in it. It depends if like you kind of have clashing colors, but you're only going to notice it when they zoom in on a player, right?
Right.
And again, how often are you really looking at a helmet? Like, like how often do you notice Ovechkin's yellow laces? Not really that often.
But what they would notice is if they had a 2-on-1 podcast logo.
Yeah, it's true.
Which I did. I think I tweeted it out. I'm pretty sure I did.
We have to repost it so everyone can see it again.
I think I'll make it the thumbnail picture.
And just put 2-on-1 on a Matthews jersey?
Yeah, that's what I did. It was the first player I thought of when I saw it, to be honest. I would have picked a Montreal guy, but
Speaking of Austin Matthews, it's relevant. Alex obviously meant to set up the transition there, so thank you, Alex. Perfect timing. So Austin Matthews apparently started skating. Maybe there's some bother in his wrist. He's gotten successful wrist surgery. Out, I think by now it was a total of 6 weeks.
Yeah,
time doesn't exist, so I don't know how long ago the surgery was. Like maybe a week ago. It's just everything is so jumbled. So it looks like he'll be ready for the start of the season. It's still kind of surprising because we all knew that there was the sort of we knew that there was a problem with the wrist last season.
Yeah.
But he's still like, you wonder how much of a bother it really was back then because he was still scoring like a madman in the regular season.
I'm just trying to remember. I think it was CJ who reported it at the time or it was an Athletic article. It was one of the two for sure. I remember that specifically. It was one of CJ or the Athletic who talked about Matthew's wrist bothering him. I believe it was sometime in March. So like this has been a thing for about the last third of the season plus the playoffs. Cause then it kind of just went away. It's like, well, is his wrist okay? Like I think we had the discussion on the show. If his wrist is not okay, why is he playing? I get the goal thing, but long-term is more important. So clearly there was still that issue lingering.
Yeah. I also too, it's pretty late into the summer, right? Or I really thought like they would get it done earlier for him because like it is really right at like when the season's supposed to start.
Well, think of it like this, right? What's the problem with Jack Eichel? Okay, it's surgery versus rehab. Maybe there was a hope because like, let's be honest, if he's starting to shoot pucks now, maybe he was hoping like over the summer would heal because how much let's be honest, how much was he shooting pucks over the summer? He was going to UFC events and that, and he was going to baseball and people making a big deal out of it. So I wonder if that's just it. Now he's going again. He'll be good for the start of the season. There is always that like worry because it's wrist surgery. Like people will immediately like start panicking. Tyler Johnson turned into like the most average player ever since his. Claude Giroux just kind of fell off and never really recovered from his. It's a worry, but like, he's young, right?
When does training camp start? Middle of September, around then?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he should be back at least by training camp, if I can do math correctly.
And let's be honest, if you're Austin Matthews, you're going to be like, let's wait after camp. I don't need to be there for that. Right, I just got to rehab it, because, players hate training camp.
Well, they're showing up in shape anyways. It's not like they're putting on 50 pounds of fat and having to take it off like the good old days, as they say.
I'm sure he just doesn't want to go through that like few days of just pure fitness testing.
Exactly.
That used to be, I don't think they do it too much anymore, but in the NBA, there used to be clauses where it's like in your contract, you have to guarantee that you come back at your player weight that like you had the season before, because there were certain players like Boris Diaw, for example, when he was on the Spurs, there was a clause in his contract like, okay, you'll get a bonus if you don't come into camp again overweight.
Really?
Yeah, because it was becoming a thing with him where it's like, man, you really like in the summer, this guy didn't care.
So, is there a clause? Was there a clause with Houston and Harden for that? Because that was the whole thing to start the year. We've had that a couple times in the NHL. There have been players that have shown up, and I think there was a guy in Tampa. Was it Slater Cuckoo?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Jake Dotchkin.
Yes. Jake Dotchin. Because then he went to St. Louis, and then I think he ended up in Anaheim for a bit. Like he made the rounds.
Like he was a pretty good player. It just couldn't keep the weight down.
Just didn't show up in shape to camp. Again, if that was the 80s, it's like, okay, cool. That's expected.
Right.
But
it happened to Scott Glennie.
What happens if you show up to Colorado Avalanche camp? If you're Jake Dotchin, what does Nathan McKinnon do to you?
Placed on waivers.
Exactly.
By Nathan McKinnon, not even the management.
Yeah, exactly.
Fills out the paperwork.
He calls Joe Sakic and says, Jake Dotchin's on waivers, and hangs up the phone. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
That's the real reason Phil Grubauer didn't get more money in free agency. He had one too many donuts, and Nate was like, that's it.
He's had enough. We
got to cross the line there. Cross the line. Can't have it. Daniel?
Yes.
Do you want to show us your Team Canada because you weren't here?
Sure.
First off, did you listen to the last episode?
I did.
What did you think of our lists?
I liked it. I mean, I think that's just become a theme of like what I thought with certain lists. Like you kind of go off the board, and I think a big thing with this Olympics is that we haven't had it in a while, so we don't really have a good fair assessment of like, okay, who's the international guys, because we always had the World Championships to kind of assess that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
good point.
To be honest, I don't know. It is definitely going to be a younger team.
Well,
so a lot of potential there. So I'll share it now.
The cynic in me said if they go. By the way,
okay. We're going off the.
So is John Cooper going without the players?
He just goes on the trip to. Nah, what are we doing here?
All right. I need your permission, Alex.
I apologize.
I need your chicken permission.
Go ahead. Did
you ever see that meme?
No.
Where people before I share it, people would have screenshots of like really bad typos.
Okay.
And then instead of like Parmesan, like chicken Parmesan, it's like, here's my chicken permission recipe.
Yeah, autocorrect isn't always auto-correcting. I'll say it like that.
All right.
Let's see this thing. I expected at least 2 full rosters based on past experience.
So,
all right. So here's the list.
Before you keep going, actually, I do want to say, let's start at the goalies, then go D and forwards. I think I did tell you guys do 3 goalies, 8 defensemen, and I think I said, I said 15 forwards. So I'm excited to see that you already have 6 goalies. All right. Okay, Daniel, take it away. All right.
I mean, there's really no argument here. Carey Price is number 1. Marc-Andre Fleury is going to back him up. And that's basically, 1 and 2. That's Brodeur Luongo 2.0. And then for the backup goalie, you don't really know, right? Like Darcy Kemper, a lot of people talk about it, but I'm just kind of a bit iffy with it because of the injury history. And he has proven himself, but he's never proven himself in like the long stretches. So I know it's the 3rd goalie, but I'll put him there because I like him. For Carter Hart and Mackenzie Blackwood, I added them together because they're both young guys that they've been good and they've been not so good. So I think a big thing is going to be who's going to be hot starting next season.
Yeah.
That was like the Mike Smith thing.
You invite them to camp, but they cut them. They don't make it past the first round.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, defenseman. Okay, here you go. So yeah, I know I have 4 defensive lines pairings right now, but here it is. So basically, this is basically Team Canada tradition. So it's also kind of John Cooper tradition too. If you have 2 young guys who are going to be on your defensive pairings, you end up putting them in sheltered roles. So I think even though Cale Makar is going to probably be the best defenseman there, I think that he just starts on the 3rd pairing for now. And they're going to see what happens with that. It's pretty obvious, I think, with the defense. You can't really have too many kind of like what ifs, like, or who's going to get cut. To be honest, I think Aaron Ekblad could work his way up. The only thing is they're so strong on the right side again that I can't see him really cracking the top 4. It's really going to depend too on his injuries and see what happens. I think Sam Girard is someone who has the most potential to do something with that left side that he may, I don't know, like maybe he'll push a Morgan Riley onto the 7th defenseman. We don't know.
So those are your extra 2 defensemen. But
yeah, my extra 2 defensemen.
Can I just, you made a good point about Chabot and Makar about them being young, but like the thing with Chabot and Makar is that they're not like normal young defensemen because they're in situations where they're already playing top pairing minutes. Like Makar is playing for a really good Colorado Avalanche team and he's being put in tough situations. Thomas Chabot, on the other hand, is playing for the Senators who are rebuilding and up and coming. But like I remember he played I think it was for Team Canada. I don't remember what tournament it was, but it was like a 50-minute game.
That's probably the World Juniors, the year that I think he was the silver for. Yeah,
they got the silver. In the
so like they're special young defensemen because they've been put in such difficult situations already.
For sure. I use the example of Drew Doughty, where he was already playing heavy minutes in his like first few years with the LA Kings, but then he starts off in the third pairing on the Olympic team in 2010, and then he worked his way up and like pushed Brent Seabrook out of the lineup.
And by the way, just because if you're not watching the video version, Shabbat Makar is the third pair. Right. Gerard Ekblad, the extra guys. Okay.
I made a joke here. I'm like, the second pairing I have here of Morgan Riley and Dougie Hamilton's like what the Leafs should have had. But don't worry. I'm just kidding. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Alex. That one hurt. It's okay. Well, yeah, top pairing, Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo. I think that one was a bit of an obvious one where you kind of go with the familiar guys, and we'll see how it goes. Fun fact, Alex Pietrangelo is the only guy on the defensive team that was both on the Olympics and the World Cup of Hockey, and he played the left side for Mike Babcock.
Wow.
Brent Burns was on the right side.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible.
Yeah. All right, now on to the forwards.
It's a lot of guys.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, first pairing. I think this one was kind of obvious. I liked going with Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid together on the first line, but I put Mark Stone there because I wanted the grit and like the two-way approach. So kind of really balances things out there. Second line is kind of the obvious one as well. It's the 2016 World Cup of Hockey line: Marchand, Crosby, Bergeron. I think if it's not broken, don't fix anything.
Yep.
Right.
Third pair, I think I went for the scoring and I guess defensive responsibility. So I have Jonathan Huberdeau, Sean Couturier, and Braden Point. So fourth line, this kind of changes with the extras I have there because it's really going to depend on injuries and really what Team Canada wants to go for. Like they want to go for like the high scoring on rolling out 3 or 4 lines, or they want like that responsibility line where we saw in 2010, 2014. So fourth line I have for now is John Tavares, Ryan O'Reilly, and Mitch Marner. I think that Marner, I still believe in him. I think he could try to work his way up, but we'll see how that goes. For my extras, right now it's Mark Scheifele and Matt Barzal / Anthony Cirelli. Let's see who will play the better season. Who play better in the next season. And then I have Bo Horvat there because, again, another defensive guy. He's been pretty consistent, and I think he could excel in a bottom line role. And I put Steven Stamkos here all because it is Steven Stamkos. I love the guy, but just injuries. And I think that what he's been able to kind of be as in that guy is kind of gone. Like not gone, but you already know. Like he's not a focal point anymore.
You brought up Steven Stamkos. Have you guys seen the hoopla that's been going on with Steven Stamkos?
So what people are like trying to say, so he sold his house, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Because he apparently got this offer he couldn't refuse, and he's already bought the new house.
Yeah.
Still in Tampa.
But yeah.
And people are trying to say that the Tampa Bay Lightning bought it for more money.
Well, so I haven't seen that, but what I saw, like what was first reported is that he was selling his house, and then everyone's like, "Oh my God, the Lightning are going to trade Steven Stamkos." Then I think it was today, the same person reported that he received an offer for like 2.5 times the value of his house, which was like $17 million. And so he's like, wow, yeah, like, here we go. I'll take that offer. Like, why would you say no to that? And then he bought another one, I think in the same area.
That's crazy.
So he's not leaving Tampa Bay would be the answer to that
question. Do you remember when he liked that rumors, like is Steven Stamkos signing with the Leafs in the offseason?
Yeah.
Everyone went crazy.
Yeah. I remember that.
So did I hear you right when you were guessing about who was going to have a better year between Barzal and Cirelli? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
In terms of what, like, again, Team Canada wants, because like sometimes we talk about like picking the best guys, but we always know that the way the Olympic team is, it's never like that. For example, like Chris Kunitz started, I know because of the Crosby thing, like Chris Kunitz started on the first line, or Patrick Sharp made it to the 2014 team because he had chemistry with like Taves. And like I meant he was having a great season prior to that, but just again, we'll see. Like, Dan Hamhuis made the Olympic team.
So wait, well, what do you see in Cirelli though?
I see being like, taking that next step as that two-way center that he has been really consistent. He can score, and honestly, like I don't know, like we saw a decline in Ryan O'Reilly's game. He might get him out of there. Sean Couturier, I love the guy, but he's coming back from injuries and inconsistency. We'll see how that's gonna go. Like after Crosby and McDavid, I think it's open season for whoever plays the bottom centers.
I don't know if you all meant to put him in there for this reason, but he also plays for the team that John Cooper coaches. Mm-hmm. And I know he's not the general manager, but let's not pretend that John Cooper has zero input on who's going to be on this team.
I mean, that's why I remembered Adam's list. I'm like, so it's like Yanni Gord going to make the team as well.
What? Did I do that?
I think, yeah, you put Yanni Gord.
No, I think Mike suggested bringing. No, I did not put Jan. No, that was Mike.
That was
okay.
Mike. I had Phil Deneau.
Yeah.
Because I don't mean to be a smartass here, Daniel, but do you know Anthony Cirelli has never scored 20 goals? So if you want a depth centerman to do a shutdown role, I think there are other options, aka a certain member of the LA Kings. Mm. That's Phil Deneau for anyone wondering what.
I was about to say.
Kopitar? I was going
to say. I'll say Kopitar.
No. Slovak.
Dual citizen.
Is he Slovakian? Is that what he is?
No, he's Slovenian.
Slovenian.
And for a while, I was like the only Slovenian player in the NHL. I think there's like 3 now.
And who are they?
I'll find out. Give me 1 second.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing.
You keep. Yeah, go ahead. But if there's more.
No, but that's my team basically. I know I have a lot of honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I wanted to do my best to see like, okay, like these guys deserve to be there. It's just it's been what? It's gonna be 8 years since we were able to do this. So I think there's a lot of changing of the guard of who is the mainstay guys now and who's gonna really kind of make it. And I think now it's just it's kind of time to get away from like what I looked at what were previous Olympic predictions years ago. I remember looking through my old list where there was still Claude Giroux or a Logan Couture making it.
Well, think of it like this: like Bouwmeester's obviously gone now. Doughty probably won't make it. Weber's not going to make it because he's basically retired. Jamie Benn wouldn't be on this team. Yeah, Sharp is gone. Kunis is gone. Rick Nash is obviously gone.
Jonathan Taves.
St. Louis could barely get on the team even when his guy was running it. Never forget. There's weird, man. There's some it's going to be I always get it mixed up. Is it Doug Armstrong who's the GM, the one in St. Louis, or is Doug the one in Arizona?
No, that's Bill.
That's Bill?
Doug is the one in St. Louis.
And then Tim is the lead singer of Rancid.
Well, hold on. I don't know what.
Okay, so we'll do it. So Arizona is Bill Armstrong.
Yes.
St. Louis is Doug Armstrong. Doug Armstrong is GM. Yes.
And then George played for the Leafs.
How did Doug Armstrong get the job? Did they name him like right after the Blues had won the Cup? Was that their thinking?
That's a great question.
It wouldn't have been long after that. I don't know. It's just when you think of Canadian GMs, I don't know. There were just other guys. Like, did they ask maybe some others? And it was like, does this guy want?
But it was not their guy.
Well, let me check. Do you have to be Canadian to run it? Is this a rule? Like, I know obviously the athletes themselves have to be, but
yeah.
So it was announced on February 3rd, 2021 that Armstrong would be the general manager for Canada's 2022 Olympic team, but he has been a part of Hockey Canada's management group since 2010 because it says he was there for the 2010 and 14 Winter Olympics, 07 and 16 gold medal world championship teams, 2016 world championship team, and on and on.
So he's basically the next.
He has the experience.
I mean, this is also the guy who let Pietrangelo just kind of walk.
Correct.
I just think, and I think that was done after he was named, but I don't know. It's just the obvious answer is Steve Yzerman. I don't know if he didn't want it, but that's my thought is Yzerman. He's done a pretty good job of, aka look at Tampa. He didn't perfect that roster, but he built it to what we kind of know it. And then Brisebois kind of. Even Brisebois. What about him? He's from Quebec, but
that's
still.
That's a good point.
It's weird, man. It's weird.
To answer Daniel's previous question, there's only one Slovenian active NHL player, and that is Anze Kopitar.
Oh, okay. So what was I thinking of?
Maybe you're thinking of the Slovakians?
Maybe. My apologies to the
Halak
Slovenians.
Slovakian?
Yeah, he's Slovakian.
Is Chara Slovakian?
Yes, he is.
Don't all the Slovakian hockey players live on the same street? Isn't that a thing?
I remember one time when they were actually stacked in 2010.
Is Gaborik Slovakian?
Yeah, he is. That's why they had Prime. They had Prime, Hossa, and Gaborik and Chara on that team. I remember.
Yeah. Well, technically, Hossa's still active, isn't he?
Yeah, for the. So So he can't retire to help Chicago with their cap situation. Or their money situation. So he's technically still being paid by Arizona, but he's hired by the Blackhawks as a development thing.
Yeah. But no, the hard cap is great, guys. The hard cap is just fantastic.
So does Marian Gaborik get a ring with the Lightning?
Just fantastic, honestly.
He could get a ring. They could do that because he did help.
I don't know if you saw this earlier, but the Golden Knights placed that guy they got from Marc-Andre Fleury on unconditional waivers.
What's his name again?
Mikhail Hakkarainen.
This is sad because I just read an Athletic article about him. I know I was only the other guy in the trade, but I'm still trying to pursue my NHL dreams, and this hurts.
They literally now traded him for the reigning Vezina winner for nothing. But no, salary cap. This hard cap is just so good, guys.
By the way, we can clearly tell Hossa can't retire because they're playing shenanigans, Oh, and they also traded the Cup champions, the Seabrook deal. Oh, but the Habs can't put Shea Weber on LTIR until the start of the season because, this league.
Pavel Datsuk's also in Arizona too, right?
No,
I think isn't it done?
Hossa's done. Hossa's deal is up. Datsuk, I thought Datsuk never got traded. I thought it was Zetterberg, or Zetterberg never got traded.
No, Zetterberg never got traded.
I think Zetterberg just expired.
And Kessler never got traded.
Yeah, Kessler should be around right now, but he's doing Kess's house, which no one watches. But he's hanging out with Jeannie Bouchard doing something. Post Malone on Zoom. I don't know.
This is Kessler's last year, by the way.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe they should trade that deal because that would actually be. But then
Well, they'll trade him for a 23 to 28 player who's not hit he's just about to enter his prime. But
I actually have
go ahead.
No, I just remember that. I have breaking news about the Ducks.
Oh, has Bob Murray's plan changed?
No, Isaac Lundestrom has changed his number to 23.
Wow.
Yes.
That's breaking news. And you heard it here first.
Yes. Gotta switch my jersey. No, I'm kidding.
Do you have an Isaac Lundestrom?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Good.
I almost bought him. Okay, what was the most random jersey you guys have ever tried to buy? Or you almost bought?
Well, I have Caulfield, obviously. Decent purchase so far.
That's not random.
I had Pacioretty. Kind of makes sense.
You had?
Druin. Well, sorry, I have Pacioretty, but because he's not on the team
I'm something happened when he was traded. You're I'm done with this guy.
Well, I didn't wear the jersey anymore because he didn't play for the team. But I had that. I had Kotkaniemi, which so far we'll see if he gets traded, but that's still a fair enough one. And then I had Lars Eller, which I think is kind of obscure, third line center. But beside that, I've never been you know what? I really want to get a Tom Gilbert jersey. I never went that far.
No.
How about you, Alex?
I think the weirdest jersey would be the Zach Bogosian jersey, which was a recent 100%. Purchase. But I don't have all the other ones. There's the Marner. Marner.
I almost said Matt. I thought you were about to say Matt Martin.
No, the Marner. I have Kessel, JVR, Kadri, and then I have the Matthews one that's in the basement. That's actually up now. But other than that, that's it. I have a Crosby one, that Team Canada from the World Cup.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's got the Bogosian one's the weirdest one, I guess, if you throw that one in the mix.
Mine was a near purchase. I almost bought it.
What's that?
Pat Falloon on the Sharks.
That is a very weird one.
Because I just wanted the 90s Sharks jersey.
Owen Nolan's before that, right?
I believe so, like a year before.
Yeah.
Oh no, Nolan was drafted by the Nordiques.
Yeah, I know, but didn't he?
And then
Did he not play for the Sharks though?
yeah, he got traded for Sandis Ozlage.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking like, who are Sharks that played in the '90s? Yeah, Owen Nolan was there from '96 to 2000. He was decent for them.
He was traded right before they won the cup because he had a contract dispute.
You mean Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah, he was there. He played 9 games their first year. Yeah. God, I hate thinking about, man, what if they had stayed in Quebec for one more year? Everything changes. Everything changes. Well, no, because they don't get Waugh. Never mind. Definitely not going to happen. Lads, another goalie has been signed. UC Saros is extended by the Predators. It's a 4-year deal. The AAV is $5 million. He had a sneaky good year. His advanced numbers were very, very good. Goals saved above average, our new favorite stat here at the 2-on-1 podcast. Really fair deal, really good deal, I think, for both the Preds and Saros.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this now. His lowest save percentage when he's played at least 20 games has been .914.
That is better than league average.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll go, he started in 16-17. It was a .923, then .925, then .915, .914, and last year he had a .927.
Woo!
In 36 games.
A couple of years ago, it was always like, when is he going to get the shot? Before Rene signed that last deal, it was Saros' time. But they were patient, and man, looks like it's working out.
I'm sure he will get plenty of shots next year when he and David Riddick are the Nashville Predators goal. Yeah. Nashville Predators goaltending tandem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy for him because I remember when he was coming up in the World Juniors, and he's an undersized guy. He slid in the draft because of this. We don't know what his projection is going to be like in the NHL, and he's proving he could do it. He could make it.
You have to support the small goalies. There aren't a lot of them out there. It's still kind of weird though when you look that's a good move. I think you can, no matter what stage your team's out, extending a good goalie is always the right move. It is kind of confusing though when Nashville are still not. We don't know what they're doing. And apparently there were reports now that they're trying to extend Ekholm and Forsberg. And you're like, okay, that's
okay.
Good.
But why?
So we're just that's the golden question.
They're trying to do the Detroit thing. They're trying to just get by. Also because
it's going to ruin them.
I don't know what's going to happen because so much money is left there. I don't know.
Here's
you just try.
It won't ruin them, but it will just keep them in place. That's the worst thing. It's Minnesota. No offense, but we'll get to them in the second here.
But you don't think? Well, here's the thing. So you signed Forsberg. He's 27. You signed Ekholm. He's 31 right now. So out a year. So 28 and 32. It's going to get to a point where with Minnesota, at least you had young guys surrounding them. Forsberg and Ekholm are surrounded by Duchesne, Johansson, Granlund, Sissons. It's just there's no names.
What was that Granlund contract, by the way?
Yeah, that was an odd one.
$5 million AAV or something.
That was a weird one. They're just, maybe it won't ruin them, but it has the potential to ruin them like it did Detroit. And I feel like we're just scratching at trying to get into the playoffs the same way that Detroit did. What's the end goal for David Poile? Is he just trying to save his job or is he trying to properly do it?
I think it's the revenue aspect of it too, because, with the Red Wings, they're kind of like the Leafs. You could rebuild and do all of that and people will still go to the games. But I think a team like Nashville, where they didn't really have too many of those quote unquote rebuilds or anything.
Sure.
They've had those off years, but I think that as a fan base, they got used to it. They kind of got used to okay, they're rolling. We need to do something about this and keep on going. One example is the Coyotes. They get to the conference finals in 2012. And they still just try to keep adding for 2 or 3 years, hoping Mike Smith could still play 60 games a season. And look at where they are now.
There's just the thing with Nashville is Like it very much felt like it was the word was that it was revenue as to why they didn't go completely balls to the wall selling last year, as well with like they didn't get the prices they wanted on guys. And I don't know. Nashville is not a full building a lot of the time. So I would get if there is that financial stuff to it. It's just for the long term and building a team. Eventually you got to win. Like you got to choose the direction. I mean, like Minnesota, say what you want about them. At least they still have that passionate fan base. Like that's an underrated arena, right? You gotta get there. Like Vegas, people forget when Vegas started out. I watched their games. It wasn't full to start in Vegas.
No.
If they didn't have that first season, they're not what they are right now. Like in terms of like how crazy that fan base is. Winning does a lot for now, like just in general. And I think with Nashville is they've never taken that real step. Like when they were at their best in that 2017 run, it was when Johansson looked great. And I think he had that guy. It was some sort of lower body injury. Like he was on crutches or whatever. And he just never recovered. And then you just kind of think like this Granlund deal, like that $5 million, like that's what you would have thought like Minnesota Granlund would have gotten.
Yeah.
And it's just been like, and again, the Duchesne thing is they've kind of in a different reality if they pay a premium to get a centerman. Like if this is a different space when they're like in an Eichel or something, you could get it. But it's just like you spend this money on these guys and it's just, but then you've got all these bloated sort of terrible deals in the most important positions in your franchise. And you're just going, you're ripping your hair out at it. And again, like he just like Ekholm walked for nothing or like for like a bunch of picks because he wanted to protect some no-name defenseman in the expansion draft. Like, come on, guys.
Like that's the thing is it seems to me like they half-assed a rebuild or they half-assed a retool and say, okay, we're going to trade Ellis and we're going to trade Arvidsson, where fine. If you wanted to trade Ellis, that's fine. Like they were rumored to wanting to get rid of a defenseman because they want to bring up, I believe his name is David Ferentz, who I believe they just signed out of the NCAA, who they drafted. But what was like, I understand then wanting to re-sign Philip Forsberg for the fact that he is a name and everyone knows Philip Forsberg. But you trade Ellis for pennies on the dollar. I'm so like, I can't be the only one who thought that deal was not what it should have been. Like you got Philip Myers, Nolan Patrick, who turned into Cody Glass, and who was the third player I'm missing?
They got 3. They got 2, no?
I'll look up the deal.
But it to me, it just seems like they tried it, but they don't want to do it. Like if in my head, my reaction is, okay, if we're going to rebuild, you need players to rebuild around, obviously. I don't think it was necessary to sign Mikael Granlund to that deal. I don't think he's a name the same way Philip Forsberg is a name. I would absolutely re-sign Philip Forsberg because he's a good player. But you build around Forsberg and Yossi and Saros. Like those are your 3 guys in my head. If you have to pick one from those 3 positions, that's how I would say you do it. But I don't know what's going on in Nashville, to be honest.
Holding on.
Before you go, Daniel, just Ellis traded to Philly.
Yeah.
Nashville received Myers and Patrick, who was for Glass. So it was apparently it was just the Nolan Patrick Glass thing in Philip Myers, which is just
that was
shocking.
it.
Shocking, Baron. That's what the NHL.com are.
That's so underwhelming, yeah.
Right. So like I think we actually had that discussion on the show, but like that's a secretly not great trade.
No, especially when Ristolainen got Buffalo first, like that same week.
Nashville must be kicking themselves, man. If they waited a week.
I think it just makes me laugh where it kind of goes with that whole Bob Murray joke we have where just Nashville didn't want to get those raw prospects. They wanted like these 2 young guys that they could plug in right away and just contribute. Like they will contribute, but you just don't like, you're just betting on that upside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Looking now, shall we move on and look at some Winnipeg stuff quickly?
I'd love to.
Okay, the Jets, they did some work today. Not today. What am I talking about? Time doesn't exist, people. They've re-signed Neil Pionk famously from the Jacob Trouba deal. It is a 4-year deal. It's worth $23.5 million. The AAV is 5.875, as well as the cap. There's some trade protection in there, but some people kind of going, I love this deal. But considering what he does offensively and the fact that it's not $8 million like Trouba, I kind of like a sneaky good deal like this for the Jets.
Is that the bar? He's not Jacob. It's not as high as Jacob Trouba. Therefore, it's
not that massive out of an albatross. Right. Not to mention, he'll be 30 at the end of this. It's like those are his best years. You brought him up for. That's tidy business.
And I think overall they've done some really good work on that back end. I mean, bringing in Nate Schmidt, I don't mind that deal. And then you say what you want about Brendan Dillon, but maybe the price was high, but where they're going to play him, it's not the worst place.
It's what they needed. They
exactly.
Just needed a tough defensive defenseman.
They keep doing what I said they should be doing, which is good in a funny way, where they're not making huge swings like I thought they were going to do for like a Ryan Ellis or a Matthias Ekhope, but they're fortifying everything and they're just kind of getting where they need to from like the guys who are coming up and the guys that they're getting, like not for too much. Like the Brendan Dillon one, I think that was pretty effective in a way. I know it was 2 second rounders, but I don't know. I was kind of weird too with what the Capitals were doing with that. But anyways, yeah, like I don't know. I keep thinking Neil Pionk. I don't know why. I've become a fan favorite of that guy, and I think it's just because he wasn't really like necessarily the throw-in in it, but he was a guy where it's like we'd rather have Jacob Trouba than Neil Pionk, the New York Rangers.
Because Trouba was like, well, because like the sort of the noise around the whole Trouba stuff, and it was year to year arbitration, just trying to get to the point where you'd finally fix that problem. First year at Winnipeg, 45 points in 71 games. This year in 54, 32 points. Like it's just a solid guy. And again, he doesn't make $8 million. It's just they just had to nail that deal, and they did, thankfully.
Plus, they got Ville Heinola, like another defenseman.
Except they're not going to play him.
No.
Well, see, and funny enough, so these are who Cap currently have on their main roster as defensemen. Morrissey, who apparently, I was looking at some advanced numbers about Morrissey. Apparently, since Bufflin's been gone, he has been exposed a little bit. Oh boy. But obviously, again, he's been like one of the few good defensemen there, so you get him a solid partner. Nate Schmidt, Neil Pionk, Brendan Dillon, Dylan DeMello, Nathan Beaulieu, Logan Stanley, Sammy Niku, and that's not including some other young defensemen. It really sounds, apparently, there's been a lot of kind of whispers around that Sammy Niku was probably gone.
Yeah,
but you do worry, like you think of like, okay, how does Sandberg look? And again, you guys mentioned Heinola. There's all of a sudden a log jam at defense, and that's not the worst thing because it creates competition within the lineup, right? Which is,
last year we said that Winnipeg literally took a single step forward.
Yes, when
it came to their defense, because I believe it was just Dylan DeMello that they added, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We had a deadline this year.
It was free agency. Wait, what?
No, was it Mike Riley? No, Mike Riley was on Boston. Who was the other defenseman they got? Jordy Ben.
Yeah.
Yes, Jordy.
Yeah, that helped in the playoffs, didn't it?
But I just think, I don't know about you guys, and I know not much has changed, but I'm a little more comfortable with Winnipeg's defense than I was a year ago.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
A year and a half ago.
It's not just a mess of juggling Tucker Pullman in there now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They didn't have to overpay Tucker Pullman. Jim Benner did that.
No. I can't believe there's just something about a Canadian team and having a player who clearly isn't performing well, is never in the right role, and then some other Canadian team thinks I can fix that. And like CC from Ottawa to Toronto, Pittsburgh, an American team figures out how to work with it, comes back to Canada. Albatross of a deal. Tyson Barrie's still up in the air. Jordy Benn. What? Yeah. Zaitsev, yeah. but at least like the Sens have he's just been quiet minute muncher there, right? But it's such a thing in Canada that there's just this, like, everyone knows that this player is better in this role, or they're just not great overall, but they just seem to think we're a Canadian team and we can fix this, and it never works.
Another example, Roman Horak.
Wow.
Who went back and forth between like Edmonton and Calgary.
I don't know who that is, but well, and you talk about Edmonton, Calgary, and it's like, I remember when Talbot went back and forth. I think did Mike Smith play for the Flames for a little bit?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did.
And then the Neil Lucic stuff, and it's just like, why are we like, Canadian teams should be the standard for how to roll an organization, but they just consistently trip over themselves and almost embarrass the sport. That sometimes it feels like.
If you told me in let's say 2015 that the model organization to look at is the team in Florida, I would have laughed.
Both of them.
Yeah, like I would have laughed. I would have laughed. And not to say like Tampa wasn't a good team at the time. I think in 2015 they were still decent. I don't remember at the
Cup final that year.
Right. They were decent, but like they weren't the same as they were now. You know what I mean? They're not the dominant Tampa Bay Lightning that we know them as.
And love, or no, we just know them?
No, just know them.
Okay.
No, there's no love.
How dare you even try and throw the word love around with them?
My apologies.
I'm not over the finals.
Too early. Too soon.
I'm not over Corey Perry going there. I'm
Zach
not
Bogosian,
over
I know,
Joseph
right?
Eating poutine out the cup. Alex Killorn in front of the Bell Center with the cup. I'm not over Kucherov. I'm not over any of it. I have far from loved the Tampa Bay Lightning.
How long will this?
I can't believe
last?
You just brought up Zach Bogosian and the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I'm sorry. It's just you went back.
You asked how long am I going to take to get over this? Until Montreal win a cup. Okay. You got to remember, I'm not over Chris Kreider, dude. You think I'm going to get over? No, it's not happening.
This is random, but do you guys remember when we had labs or we had a Wednesday class, and I used to have that Montreal Canadiens hat? I found it recently.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
We weren't in the same lab. So
all right.
I won't remember.
Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. I guess Dan's disappeared. All right. Wow.
Disappeared. Just the two of us.
So, Alex.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Florida Panthers.
You were
talking about sort of the model organizations. If you said that a year ago, man, you would have been like, "Get out of here." So all of a sudden, they've got a real good team, good young guys, and that. But they had a pretty weird veteran in Joe Thornton. They kind of question around his play, like as a full-time NHLer, is very much in doubt. But I was talking to Alex Baumgartner on Twitter. I'm like, "What do you think of this deal?" And you made a really interesting point when you think of like Yandel and Strawman being gone. But all of a sudden, a lot of that veteran sort of presence in Florida sort of disappeared. So for that reason, I kind of like them bringing in Joe Thornton.
Here's why I don't mind the deal at all, because they're not going to play him on the first line.
No.
On the left side.
Like I don't know where they're going to play him, but I imagine it's going to be in the bottom six, better suited to his ability. Now, yes, I have crapped on Joe Thornton a few times this year because it was sometimes hard to watch him skate. But if you play him in bottom 6 minutes, I can't imagine this is going to be a bad signing. And also, I also imagine he is not going to be in the lineup every single game. I just think that's the reality here. And I think that the Florida Panthers have guys, and I think they did prove that a little bit last year as well, that can just fit into the fourth line and be like, okay, I can play there. Like bringing in Joe Thornton at this point of his career, because he is 42 years old, is more than just what he brings on the ice. It's a lot of what he brings off the ice. And you make a good point about Yandel. And who was the other player? Sorry.
Strawman.
Yandel and Strawman leaving and bringing in a guy like Joe Thornton, who has plenty of experience in leadership.
You know what it reminds me of?
Tell me.
after the lockout, and Gary Roberts and Joe Nieuwendyk left Toronto, and then they signed in Florida. You know, also did that a year later, Ed Belfour.
Really?
Yeah, so
There's some names that come out of Toronto, and you're like, really? Like,
a lot of Hall of Famers going from Toronto to Florida. It's a weird trend.
I was reminded the other day that J.S. Jaguar was a Leaf. I'm like, oh
yeah, I remember that.
Great. It's just that thing of like guys at the end of the career, maybe they're from Toronto and they just come in and it's like, we're win a cup, and then insert joke, by the way, about teams not being able to get out of the first round, bring in a perennial choker in the San Jose Sharks, Joe Thornton. Insert joke here.
Oh, jeez.
To beat people there. I'm kidding. I'm rooting for Joe to get a cup.
Same here.
Unless he runs into Montreal, then no offense, Joe.
No.
Go back to Switzerland.
Are you guys surprised he's still playing, by the way?
No.
In the NHL?
No, because it's Joe.
He can still play like to a certain extent of like the role he's given. It's just last year, I didn't like the shuffling.
I mean, why is Joe Thornton playing on the power play? Like first power play unit when you're trying to close out a series. Like even if he could make a pass, stop it. Like there's a certain point where you're like if you need a goal, there are many more important and viable players than Joe Thornton, even at especially at this time in his career. There's just it's all about using him the right way is the key thing, right? And
putting him. Sorry.
No, it's just the last thing I'll say is obviously Baumgartner suggests to me he's max 50 games played. I was like, yeah, that's pretty fair.
You give him load management.
You have to put him in the right situation.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to throw that one in there.
By the way, I found the hat.
Okay, let's see it.
You guys don't remember this? I used to wear this quite a few times.
If you show the hat, then I might remember it.
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
No. No. I think I remember you wearing it once or twice, actually. Yeah. So the 93 stuff reminds me of it.
I don't remember it.
I found that at a garage sale for $6.
I was gonna mention something, but it's completely slipped my mind. Oh wait, no.
Joe Thornton.
No, it's something with we've kind of moved on from it, but how sometimes there's the
so that's Toronto. Whoa.
But it was just this thing of it was this clip I saw of Masai because I guess he talked to the media today, and he's just like, I'm not going to sit here and cry about players not wanting to come and play here because we're over that. And this kind of had a flashback to every time I've heard a Canadian GM or coach or player or fan base mention or an analysis saying. Or analyst, saying people don't want to play in Canada. And I'm just like, man, at some point, I'm just like, I want someone like Masai to just say no more excuses. It's just, we have to be better. There's just, sometimes there's not enough. There's always the party line in the press conference. And sometimes you're like, I don't want that. That's not the message the fans want to hear. It's just just say we effed up and we have to be better. And just, the side of a bit of accountability sometimes goes a long way with the fan base. Finally,
I think he's done a good job at that, by the way.
Who, Masai?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's put in a situation where he has to do a good job.
Yeah.
And he's found a way to do it in just drafting and developing. That's the easiest way to do. It's easy, but it's hard. Sorry, it's not easy. It's hard, but it's the best way to do it.
The guy had the balls to trade a fan favorite for a guy he knew wasn't going to re-sign and went with it.
Yeah,
with Kawhi Leonard. It's rock star stuff, really.
I use that a lot. That analogy.
Yeah. For
people there's another baseball one, but I don't know. I know you guys. Did you guys watch baseball in 2012?
No, but you can say it anyways.
Okay, but it's this thing where you always have to make a decision with something. It's either your professional or your personal decisions with things. And I'm like, sometimes you just have to be willing to put down your DeMar DeRozan, your Jakob Poeltl, and your first round pick if you want that Kawhi Leonard. Or the baseball one I used to use, but it's aging a bit now because he's not as dominant anymore. But you have to be willing, if you're the Blue Jays, to put down your Noah Syndergaard and Travis d'Arnaud if you want that Ari Dickey.
That's what I was going to say. My baseball knowledge is extremely minimal, but isn't it similar to what Alex Anthopoulos did in bringing in Tulowitzki, I think Donaldson, and
David Price. Yeah.
Right. And he knew, like, he gave up the farm.
Yeah, that's why he didn't get signed. Yeah.
Right. And he tried to go for it. Obviously it didn't work out, but you have to go for it. And I don't think the best general managers are the guys who aren't afraid to just go for it.
Yeah.
Hey,
just for context, Adam.
Yeah.
So I know it's not always comparable, baseball and hockey, but what Alex Anthopoulos did in 2015 in a single trade deadline is what it'd be like if you traded Cole Caulfield and like Jesperi Kotkaniemi and like Jan Mysak in the same deadline.
And they had that, and the Jays had that. I think the run they had when they lost to the Royals, was probably the best. But then again, like, I remember how hype it was around Toronto when I was in cadets. I remember we were at some exercise at CFB Borden in Blackdown. Blackdown's in Borden. Sorry, the training center is called Blackdown. And I remember, I think it was a Saturday night or something, and we were brought to one of the barracks to watch a Jays game in that run. Which, like, obviously we never did. It was really rude, and especially when it wasn't like a sports drill weekend. It was just like one in the bush, and like that's how big of a deal it was back. And I remember we'd have one of our Wednesday night normal cadet nights, and like one of our commanding officers saying, "Yeah, so the Jays won," and actually I'm sitting there like, I don't care because I didn't like baseball back then.
Were you the guy that's like, oh, can you put the Habs game on instead?
Honestly, I remember there was this one guy named Malcolm Hooper, and he came into class one day. I can't remember. He was just like, hey, Flage. I'm like, hello. I think he was like Master Corporal Hooper at the time. And he just, like, on the projection, this is in front of the whole class. It was either my first or second year. And he just throws the projector on. And like, he just brings up the score of a Habs Leafs game. And I think that the Leafs had come back. Montreal won the game because it was that stretch where the Habs had won 14 straight. And I, like, you bring up hockey. Like, there was this other girl named Laura who was a big Bruins fan. And I remember rubbing in her face that the Habs had won the 2014 series, and that was fun. But like, like the sports weekends, I'd show up my Habs jersey, and everyone's a Leafs fan. It's like, I don't care.
The thing with the Blue Jays at that time is, like, you look at the big teams in Toronto, and they were the first ones in how many years to go on those type of runs. Like, no offense to the Argos, and I mean, like, it's just it's not to the Canadians it's the same. I think to Canadians who follow the CFL it's the same, but I think to the outside perspective, like the US, the CFL doesn't mean anything to them.
Well, if Baldwin's listening to this, he's going to come after us for this conversation.
No, but I'm not saying it's not as worthy. I'm sure, like, listen, like, there's Canadians out there who love the CFL, but when you look at the big sports leagues, no one's talking about the CFL. Like, it's just the reality.
It's not massive, but its fans are wild.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wild.
Yes. I'm not trying to discount the CFL, but it was the first big team in Toronto to make a run, because this was just before TFC started to push.
And ultimately, like, kind of adding on to what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Like, you get your Grey Cups and your MLS, like, cups, whatever. Nothing matters if, like, the Jays are like, listen, I've told this before. I remember going on the GO train through Toronto during the Raptors run, and you couldn't sit down on the train, and like, you'd have to stand in the aisles between the seats on the GO train because it was that busy. I remember seeing clips of the Toronto FC parade. It's like you could still walk on the sidewalks, like, around the parade route. You know what I mean? So
I remember when the Raptors won. I was watching it with my friends. Obviously, this is pre-COVID, but we drove to Young and Finch, which is just like a major intersection into the city of Toronto, and there is hundreds of people in the streets. Like, this is something I've never seen before, ever. Hundreds of people, and watching the parade, it's goosebumps. It's goosebumps all around. And I'm not that big of a I follow basketball, but not intensely like I know the other guys do.
I just wish that some GMs would like here's the big problem that you see, and Kyle Dubas's legacy will be the can and we will thing, no matter what happens. If they lose next year, and because obviously it's pretty easy, if the Leafs don't win next year, Dubas is gone. And it's just at some point the question will be asked if Dubas had moved off his philosophy, and that is not bringing in gritty bottom six players. No, people saying like, man, Wayne Simmons means he changed the philosophy. No. Shut up. Like, that's the thing is, like, remember the Sam Bennett thing? And it was like Treliving wants to hold on to him because he was the first guy he picked. Yeah. Like having the balls to go over and like change your plan and go for that move is just something we lack so sorely here in Canadian hockey. Sometimes it's disgusting.
I do think not trading Sam Bennett because he's your first pick is a little different than not trading one of the big four. Cause like it's, I get the point you're making. I get the point you're making. I just, those two are I'm not saying
I'm not saying Sam Bennett's the same just as Mitch Marner, even in the same stratosphere. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Or the Islanders.
I went back.
They held on to Michael Del Cole until like his qualifying years are done.
Yeah. I went Kyle Dubas's philosophy was never fully analytic. Like I went back and listened to a couple of interviews he did because I got bored. And it's like, well, he said from day one that he was a scout at 17. Like he was in scouting. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not all analytics. And if you listen to him talk, that's no what he says. I think his philosophy is the big four and that's how we're going to win. That's what his philosophy is, not analytics.
Listen, best player available. Listen, you don't need a war chart to tell you Patrick Kane's a good player. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like at some point, you're just kind of it's simple. It's simple, guys. But no, it's just the thing I mean. Like comparing Bennett to that is it's just the damn straight line that the GMs walk in this country. Like just don't be afraid to sort of do a sidestep or something. Is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Minnesota?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the Wild, and then we're going to just have a look at some of the free agents who are still around. Kevin Fiala and the Wild have a little agreement before arbitration. There are still some cases to kind of go, but we'll look at those in a second. 1-year deal, $5.1 million is the AAV, the cap it, whatever you want to say. First off, I think before we get there, because Fiala, great, okay, you'll have to see it. It was a big question about re-signing Fiala. It seems to be there was still a massive gap towards what Minnesota wanted and what Fiala camp really wanted. Daniel, you're a resident Wild guy. Mm-hmm. So before we talk about Fiala, I do need to ask you, because you weren't here last week. Kirill Kaprizov reportedly has, I think it's, 8-digit contract waiting for him in Russia?
Yeah.
I think Moscow is the team. Bill Guerin is not concerned about it from his comments. There's word that there hasn't been a contract made, I think, since April, was it?
Yeah.
Looking at that, and it's a 1-year deal, and we're going to be right back in this situation with Fiala in a year in Minnesota. What's the feeling like in the state of hockey?
Apparently, this is according all to Michael Russo, by the way, that 7-8 year pitch the Wild had, it's virtually like that's not a starting point anymore. That I think they've kind of relented to a certain extent, but they still want years of control, not years of control, but years of control of his remaining RFA years, and just have some sense of a length there, like not doing the 1 year. Apparently Bill Guerin wants 4 years for Kaprizov. Try to work around there and just see what happens moving forward, because that gives them a bit more control when that those death pills of the Parise Suter contracts kind of jump in. So he gets a better idea of I know this is already set in place. I don't have to think about, all right, not only I have to do another contract or I have to trade this guy, but I also have to deal with Suter and Parise. So that's kind of the feeling how it is now. And it's basically the same thing that we've mentioned so many times before. It's just that momentum the Wild had, that, you know, that thinking that these big moves they've been able to do without sacrificing anything, or they've been able to be incremental with the guys they're bringing in. It's that feeling now where, and I feel it too with them, it's just they're stagnant. Like, I don't know what they're going to look like now. Like, Carson Soucy was a minor takeaway from things when he got picked by the Kraken. But at the same time, you look at what the Wild had to do. Like, they overpaid Alex Goligoski, and, you know, he's projected to be in their top pairing. This guy's getting $5 million at 36.
That's an underrated one. I keep forgetting Goligoski's there. Well, a 4-year deal, like a short-term deal, makes sense for Minnesota though. At the same time, because so if it's a 4-year deal, then the last 2 of that are when the Parisian Suter contract dead cap hits are around $7 million. So at the end of those first 2 years, when you have the relief, and there's been a lot of debate about not just like giving up your rentals with 1 year, but we've had conversation before, like Ekholm, exactly. Forsberg was another one last year with like Petrie and Tatar, I think it was. That like you're in a position there where all of a sudden you could deal like Kaprizov for that Grand Slam package if you finally commit to that rebuild. If the 4 years has Russo said whether or not, like at this point for sure, what does Kaprizov want? Because it looks like he's already getting his way, because it's no longer, we've slashed the term in half from where we started at full term.
He wants the short term, but the thing is, and it's been brought up so many times before, like they got burned with the last time they had a superstar winger, when Marian Gaborik left in his prime, and they got nothing for him.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, like, what the hell does short term mean?
Yeah,
is it 1? Is it 3? Like what? Because if he signs like a 2-year deal, he can walk after that, can't he?
Yeah, he can walk.
Which is obviously not what they don't want to walk him right to free agency.
And I would have to imagine that's what he wants.
Yeah. He never really mentioned, like, he was not committed, but he never say like he's like, oh, I definitely want to get out of here. I don't know. It's just, it feels like Kawhi Leonard, to be honest, in Toronto, where it's just, you know, he technically is your best player, but it's just that reluctancy is there.
I will give my best when I play for the Chicago Blackhawks and the Columbus Blue Jackets, but I want to play in New York. He's basically your Teddy Panarin.
Yeah, like to me, if he does actually want to play in Minnesota, and for what, like, it just that's something that still seems to be up in the air if he wants to play in Minnesota, because for whatever reason. But for me, both sides looking at it, it is perfect that 4 years, because in 4 years' time, if I can do math correctly, when he becomes a UFA, that is when Parise and Suter buyout becomes $800K each. So, okay, you take a short-term deal or 4-year deal, if that's not short-term, but you take the 4-year deal at a lower cap hit than 8 million, 8 years, and then you get paid in 4 years because the cap is expected to go up, and there's now almost $14 million in extra cap space available that comes off because of those 2 huge buyouts. Like, I just don't see the reluctance, especially on Kaprizov's side, unless he doesn't want to be in Minnesota and he thinks he can push this a year further. But I think Adam was saying in last episode, even if he goes to Russia, he still technically, the rights are held by Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The end goal is either you're traded or you sign a deal or you walk to free agency.
It's trying to force their hand, basically. And it's ironic because my last thing for the hockey writers, I wrote about how they've been able to draft more Russians lately. And this hasn't, the whole KHL threat, it hasn't been a huge thing since like 2014. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate now.
Back.
It's scary. You guys have a thought on the Fiala stuff? It just, I'm getting worried that it's just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
What do you think, Daniel?
I think it's that assessment of like, what is Kevin Fiala to this team? Like, is he a top line guy? Like, he has been a point per game guy, and then things kind of settled down when the team got better last year. He had 40 points in 50 games. But it just because his number, what was it, 6.7 he wanted a year in arbitration.
Yeah, which
and then they settled.
higher.
Yeah. Like I guess like what would you commit to him long term? Like would that still be at like that 5.5 range for like 4 years? And do you expect that he's still going to put up those type of numbers? Or where is this team going to be at? Because he is one of those guys where if you actually want to slow things down again, like would you still want to have this guy on the books at like 27, 28 at that cap hit?
I need to figure out how do you calculate? Okay, so points per game would be 40 divided by 50, right?
Yeah.
So that's 0.8 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I do that, okay. How do we figure out an 82 game pace then from there? Let's see, because that's around 64 games last year.
0.8 times 82.
82. Okay. So he'd be on pace for, if you round up, 66 points. So, and if you look at the year before, he had 54 points in 64 games played. And then if you times that by 82, it's 69 points. That's pretty nice. So he's around 60 to a 70-point player. He can score. It looks like he has the capability to hit 30 in the full year. I'm thinking, like, right off the top of my head, who's a guy 60, 70 points that can score you a lot of goals? I'm thinking Max Pacioretty.
Oh. Okay.
So I'm thinking around it's at around 6. I think it'd be fair on a long-term deal.
Yeah, I was gonna say William Nylander, but I like Max Pacioretty better.
Yeah,
at that example, what you're.
I go Pacioretty because there is like nearly like a decade of like example under him.
Yeah.
It's my one thing with that. At the same time, though, the risk with Fiala is he's only had the past 2 years, and that first breakout year, he only had 64 games played, which is naturally a worry. Like he hasn't earned that deal yet, but now the problem is he has that one more year to show it. But then if he just goes to arbitration, gets another year, he then also walks for nothing. And then I think it's either would be the year after that. If you get Kaprizov a 2-year deal, he walks as well, which is not a great situation.
It's not a fantastic situation at all. It's a tough one to look at because not that their D got demolished, but they took
a step back.
It did, to be honest, looking at it, did take a step back in buying out Ryan Suter and losing Carson Soucy. Like I think in their case, that would be a top pairing defenseman and their third pairing defenseman.
Yeah.
Right. So like those are two significant pieces to lose. And then adding Alex Goligoski, Dmitry Kulikov, and John Merrill it isn't fantastic. Like they have work to do. That's why I'm like, what exactly? Okay, so yeah, like you're pushing Kevin Fiala down the line, and then what? Like if Kaprizov, I want to just
a future problem.
Exactly. Like I want to ask you this question because I was thinking about it the other day. I both of you, if Kaprizov does go to the KHL, hypothetically, what do you do with his rights?
I'm thinking you can't do anything until. See, if memory serves. They couldn't really – there was never word about Kovalchuk until there were whispers that he was for sure coming back. So until you know he wants to come back – so let's just say we're a year in the future now.
Yeah,
and we know he's coming back.
Let's do that.
Then if you know he doesn't want to be there, maybe you try and get the year and then at the end of it, like you see D just go on a run or – well, no, because again, like Daniel pointed out, like if you know that he's coming back and depending on, I'm not sure 100% if he would then be an RFA at the end of it or a UFA just because like the kind of years, because he's 24, you always wonder like when's that 26th birthday? So let's say he comes back next year and you have one more year with him. If he's a UFA then trade his rights. Like you need to get something. Otherwise, because then if he goes – and then Fiala, is going to walk too. That is pure points towards you have to rebuild and you've got to start getting assets. And that is the guy who's going to get you more than anything else on that team.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're going to be like the Oakland Athletics. Like they're going to keep getting talent, but they don't pay their guys.
Can't get Giambi, but we just have to you fulfill the need by forget quality, quantity.
As long as you get on base.
Yeah,
Exactly. We're just gonna get on base, and it's gonna work. And Chris Pratt's gonna, hit a home run or something.
It's a lot more 2-1 games with the Wild.
Great.
They were fun for 1 year.
They were.
And it was a great year.
It was. I'm happy I covered them for that year.
Like, they pushed Vegas to 7, man.
They did.
No.
Remember that?
They did.
Crazy had that one goal. That was pretty sick.
Yeah. I was going to be an
We were young men at the time.
Sorry?
We were so young at the time. Little did we know.
Wasn't it like 2 months ago?
It was, but
3 months ago?
Before the buyouts.
Remember the playoffs?
Before the dark times. Before the Empire.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to quickly get up the RFAs and UFAs that are still left. Looking at UFAs, pretty important name. Zach Parise, even though, let's be honest, there's probably a deal in place with the Islanders, and Lamoriello for some reason just kind of waiting. Tuukka Rask probably going back to the Bruins, but in the new year when he's after his surgery. David Backes is probably retired. Brandon Dubinsky is probably retired. James Neal's an interesting name. Niskanen retired. If you want to go get a goon, go ahead. Travis Zajak's a depth guy. Kyle Palmieri is also
an Islander.
Yeah.
The Islanders kind of have that in place. Anisimov is out there. Devin Dubnyk. Casey Cizikas, another Islander. Probably. And I thought there were a lot. You know who's on this list? I've just noticed at 22nd overall on Cap Friendly's list.
Alex Chason.
Wow.
No, not on your list.
No. Sammy Vatanen.
Oh,
when is he going to Montreal?
What?
When is he going to Montreal?
I wish I knew, man. It's either that or go get John Klingberg. I'll take it.
Fair.
I thought there were some more names out there. No, there are not.
Well, the names out there are already signed by the New York Islanders.
You know what? Actually, Tyler Bozak is still there.
Yeah, Tyler Bozak. If you need a good depth setter,
I'd say wouldn't mind him on Montreal.
Yeah.
Face-off guy. Well, Bozak's actually the guy they need. Why did you get Cedric Paquette?
He's not coming back to Toronto?
No.
I don't know.
See, you know what's all funny about that? He wouldn't be the worst pickup.
No, I wouldn't.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
So just maybe more scoring you'd like, but still, I don't think that's a terrible pickup for whoever wanted him.
I've seen people trying to create lines, and I don't see how he would fit there because there's people who are making lineups and can't even fit Engvall or Mikheyev in there.
Which, for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah, I guess for obvious reasons.
But what I mean is what's kind of silly is those guys are probably playing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is how are you fitting Bozak in there? Is there any word? Because I haven't seen it, and I tried looking it up. I haven't found anything. Is there any word about taxi squads?
I have not seen anything about that.
Then we're going to need teams are going to need their Michael Froleaks. So,
see, there are still some very interesting depth names. It's just for some reason they're so low on this list. Lucas Wallmark, Dominic Cahoon, Brad Richardson is still in this league. Nikita Gusev, Bobby Ryan, Tyler Ennis, Derek Brassard.
Oh, he's not signed? Wow.
At 12 points could be, or is it 20 points? 20 points this year. That's not bad. You kidding me? That's like a 35, 40 point guy on a full season. Ben Hutton, who I don't think did he ever play for Toronto? Did he get into a game?
One game.
Was he worth the 5th rounder?
No.
Sure. Not really.
Bobby Ryan is still out there. Alex Galchenyuk, who apparently
there's a bidding war.
3 teams we like on this podcast are apparently all. See, this is what Luke Falk should be ashamed of that tweet. Because he did the hockey sin of reporting. He simply said they had interest. And it's okay, I think he said some level of interest, which doesn't mean anything. He knew exactly what he was doing. I love how it's Toronto, okay, you're going to get the clicks. Montreal, you're going to get the click. Galchenyuk to Montreal again. How funny is that? And Anaheim. Wait, what? What? Why do they want him?
Well, how old is he?
Yeah, he's 26, 27,
There we go. There we go.
There.
If he fits Bob Murray's, he's in that 23 to 28 who can play hockey. I believe that is the criterion, right? So
It is.
as long as he fits in that criteria.
You know what's funny?
What's funny?
I would not hate Galchenyuk being back in Montreal for some reason.
Wow.
I just don't know why he would want to come back.
Well, if you don't play him at center.
It's true.
Yeah. No,
yeah, I guess that has to be the caveat, is that he will not be playing center.
He honestly might be a better option than Thomas Tatar would have been on the power play. Even strength may be questioned defensively. They're both kind of bad, but like Galchenyuk used to be a force on the power play. Guy had a wicked one-timer.
Yeah.
But I mean, remember about 30 goals? Yeah, and everyone does, and no one shuts up about it. Okay, so these are some of the RFAs that are still around. There's 39.
Wow.
Justin Kirkland.
Who?
Exactly.
What team?
Calgary.
Okay.
Zach Senyshyn from Boston. Glenn Godden from Calgary. Dennis Malgin from Toronto.
My guy, Zachary Senyshyn.
Mm-hmm. Philip Hronik and Giovanni Smith from Detroit. Dylan Coughlin from Vegas. The Sens have Drake Batherson. Connor Bunneman from Philly. Philip Gustafson in Ottawa. Noah Gregor from San Jose. Dylan Dubé is a name out there. From the you ever heard of Otto Koivula? No, you haven't.
I have not.
Libor Hayek, Logan Brown, the guy who, when is he going to break out? Nolan Patrick, hopefully. Keeston Middlestat, Yusuf Alamaki, Kiefer Bellows, Kyle Yamamoto, Dennis Shilofsky, Robert Thomas, that's an important one. Ali Tolvanen, Anatoly Golishev from the Islanders. We're going to talk about this guy in a second. Henry Jokiharju, Kaprizov, Connor McKee, Rasmus Dahlin, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Ryan Poehling, Connor Morty, and then these are the big ones. Ilya Sheworkin, Andrei Svechnikov, Brady Tkachuk, Anthony Beauvillier, Nikita Zadorov is second on this list for some reason, and Travis Sanheim, who is a team-elected arbitration case going up there. The two that I purposely skipped there are Quentin Hughes and Elias Pettersson, who are still not signed, and apparently they are not close from Pettersson's agent. And everyone got mad because he was like, I want to play for a winning team. And everyone was like, oh, he wants out. And
sorry. I was just saying both Quinn and Hughes and Pettersson have the same age.
Yes.
Right, so.
Was it Pettersson or Hughes that fired their agent to join the other one? Which is hilarious. Like whoever it was. So what's kind of funny about this is the Canucks, I thought they said they had allocated like $12 million. They signed Jason Dickinson, funny enough. So now their predicted cap space is at $10.6 million. So if you just want to be silly about it, that basically means they have around $5.3 million to sign these guys to bridges.
Plus, I believe, if I read it correctly, Michael Furland isn't playing. So that's an extra $3.5 million.
And if you want to read an article about how that could maybe help them, check out Harman Dials on The Athletic, because that was there, actually. But still, that's a problem because with Furland, that's approximately $3.5 million.
Yeah.
And let me ask you guys this. Do you trust Jim Benning working in the limits of LTIR? Because I do not.
I don't. I don't. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying, what they're doing. I'm just, as you can tell, I'm stuttering, not because I'm just like, I don't know what to say, because it's just mind boggling how we started with, they allocated about $18 million for, I believe it was Demko, Pettersson, and Hughes. And now they're $10.5 million, or if you want to say 14, and Hughes and Pettersson are still unsigned.
Wait, did you say it was 18 they had?
Around there, I believe that was what Friedman reported a couple months ago.
So
we'll just wait for the next big story of what happens with the Canucks, because there's going to be something.
Like, someone has to go, and they already made one trade to get rid of a boatload of cap.
Again, it's the Canucks just not knowing what a priority is sometimes. Again, $7 million after the retain for Oliver and Larson. I'm assuming you have cap friendly up right now, Alex?
Yeah.
How much is How much is Dickinson? 2 point something?
2.6.
And the other guy whose name I
Pullman.
cannot remember. They
Tucker
got
Pullman.
From, not Tucker Pullman. The forward they got from Arizona, who's at sea.
Connor Garland.
Connor Garland makes what?
4.9.
4.9. So okay, all right. Well, I just again, yeah, it's funny how quickly you got Garland done, and you've been working on Hughes and Pedersen since the trade deadline. And yeah, COVID stuff aside, it's tough. It's tough to look at.
Does one of them hold out?
I think they're both holding out.
I think currently.
No, I mean like to start at like training camp.
I think both of them are going to hold out because both of them can easily take up on short-term deals 70% of their current available cap space.
I thought they were. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say without putting Ferland on LTIR, they can take one of them could take up $7 million if they wanted to.
I thought for sure if it's a 3-year bridge, it's around 7.5. Because I was comparing it to Kachuk or Braden Point deals.
Or Barzal, right? Because Pedersen is a center as well. Like that's the comparison.
And then like McAvoy for Hughes.
Sure.
And they've just completely fumbled it.
I'm very curious, and I think we should have Harman on soon to talk about it because I'm very curious as to how they're going to get through this without losing someone significant. Because to me, it looks like, and his name continues to keep popping up randomly, but I just have this gut feeling, and most of the time my gut is wrong, but I'm going to say it anyways, that if they were to trade Brock Besser's $5.875 million of cap space, that would bring them to about $16 million, which would leave them $8 million for both Pedersen and Hughes, and once again, push the problem down the line. But that's what all NHL GMs do anyways. Like, do you not see an outcome where a guy like Besser gets traded?
Yeah. The whispers have been there, It's the last guy you should. The thing with Besser is he is the Western Canadian version of William Nylander, not in the terms of hockey men hate Brock Besser, but he is the guy that for years it was they can't keep everyone and Nylander's the one who's going to have to go.
Right.
It's going to be the thing of Benning has just sort of dropped the ball so badly on cap management that Besser might have to go as the sacrifice. And reminder, all of this why Brock Besser is on that that Bo Horvat is on that sweetheart deal.
JT Miller and Bo Horvat make a combined $10.75 million.
It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yep.
The Canucks, though. The Canucks. They'll make the playoffs probably.
Will they?
Division? Yeah, I think so. Because regardless, if it gets,
they'll be good for now. Like they'll be okay.
Because if they start, think of it like this: the Pacific sucks, right? Like the Pacific sucks. And like okay, so let's kind of think of it. If let's just say they get 1-year deals, it's whatever. They get Hughes and Pedersen back. They still have Hughes and Pedersen, right?
Yeah.
They have Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who even if he's not OEL of the past, he's still Oliver Ekman, but still a serviceable top 4 defenseman is like. It's going to be hard not to be better than Nate Schmidt was. Like Nate Schmidt's a good defenseman, but the fit wasn't there, right? Yeah. And like it's going to be a relieved workload to what Oliver Ekman-Larsson had in the past, aka carrying the Coyotes for a decade. And up front, I think they've improved, aka like some of the like Dickinson's a good one. Like the funny thing is, I would argue that the Canucks improved. Especially in net, like Holtby, everyone knew from the moment it happened that Holtby wasn't going to work. Halak's fine. Like, I think like there's an argument that the Canucks, and again, this is the problem with the Oliver Ekman-Larsson deal that was said to death, is that in the short term, the Canucks are probably the better team. And all this, of course, hinges on if they can actually get Hughes and Pedersen signed without sacrificing Brock Besser or Horvat or Miller. But right now, I can look at the Canucks compared to last year and say that they're better.
Would you argue, because I mean, I would kind of make this argument, but would you argue similar to Winnipeg last year that they took a single step forward?
I would have to have a look. In fact, let me just have a look at their roster and like compare it to. I just hit my mic. Sorry about that.
Because to me, that would be the case.
So I'm trying to remember because Winnipeg went from not having a right side and they brought in DeMello, right?
Yeah.
So the Canucks lost. Let me get up their cap friendly. Why can't I find? There they are. So let's think about this. So the Canucks lost Edler, who wasn't great. They lost Holtby. They lost. If we're having this conversation last year, when you think of like Toffoli and Stetcher, then it's definitely a single step. But like, I'm like, who was the forward they traded for Matthew Highmore?
Adam Gaudette.
And I am looking at some of their bottom six guys, and I may have to eat my words in a second here because it's Highmore, Justin Bailey, Philip DiGiuseppe, Justin Dowling, Zach McEwen, who are like, but then, okay, never mind. Okay, yeah, I'm having a look. Yeah, maybe it was a step forward. Maybe it was a single step forward. Yeah, their depth isn't amazing.
Like, great, their top six is cool.
Top six is nasty. Actually.
Yeah, like it's pretty good. Especially, I like that Connor Garland deal. And then making sure you have Pettersson there. Yes, they improved goaltending wise. Like, yes, okay, Yaroslav Halak, good backup goalie, especially for Thatcher Demko. Like, Halak has had that experience where if Rask gets injured, he's come in and he's done a good job. I don't know what happened to the defense there. Like, okay, out is Nate Schmidt, Edler, bringing in Ekman Larsson, who is good, but again, he has to rebound. Like, Vancouver also have to do their job in making sure he rebounds. Like, it's a two-way street. Bringing back Travis Hamonic, signing Tucker Poolman. It's a lot of relying on the top end of your defense to do a really good job, in my eyes.
Yeah, well, so okay, let's look at it. Let's compare it to. So, do you guys agree that the Canucks are going to make the playoffs? Yes, yeah, or no?
Yeah, but probably. Like one of the last spots.
Okay, because like if you look at it, Vegas, obviously. Yeah, Vegas, great. Yeah, get a centerman for the love of anything. Anaheim, I think we can agree are.
No, it's not the rebuilding year.
The Sharks, no. Seattle.
I think they can do damage if they want.
Their first line center is having shoulder surgery. Actually, no, because they have goaltending, which takes a long way.
Exactly.
Rough and tough defense.
And I don't think they're done making acquisitions.
What else can they do?
Listen, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 8 teams in cap trouble. Edmonton might need help. Dallas might need some help. The Blackhawks. There's teams that will need help eventually. And Seattle will be there with their, where are they? $9 million in cap space and an owner who doesn't seem to be afraid to spend money.
I'll say this. I like Vancouver right now. Call me crazy. I like them more than Seattle.
Yes.
I like them more than San Jose.
Correct.
I like them more than Anaheim. Mm-hmm. I like them more than Calgary because I'm so fed up with the Flames at this point. I love how Goudreau and Monahan are still both there. Mm-hmm. Can't wait for Goudreau to get extended, by the way. Edmonton are just like, I have no idea. I put Vancouver and Edmonton even because, again, it's the same thing. Wicked top 6. With some nice defensemen, not amazing in some regards. I think Edmonton probably have the who has the worst defense, Vancouver or Edmonton?
Edmonton. I don't know. Like,
well, here's the thing. So we know Clefbaum's not playing. So their top 4 is Keith, Nurse, Barry, and CC.
So let's put it like this, okay? So Hughes, let's just say Hughes and Nurse.
Hughes.
Yeah. Would Darnell Nurse be the second best defenseman in Vancouver? Him or Alvar Larson, right?
Personally, from what I've seen, I would take Darnell Nurse, but I'd like to see OEL play before making
fair. Okay, let me ask you this though: how much Arizona hockey have you watched?
The thing is, he might
Not
be
a
like,
lot, but he hasn't played great there. Right?
He might be
like
one of those.
That's why I'm saying I'd like to wait to see him play like 20 games or something.
It might be like Blake Griffin on Detroit, and then suddenly he's not injured anymore on the Nets.
Maybe.
So basically, it's Vegas, and then just two very questionable top-heavy Canadian teams, and then the California gong shows.
Yeah.
Oh no, because LA. I think LA are going to be good. LA are going to be good. Mark my words. LA are coming second next year. I promise you.
I honestly, looking at LA, I think they're closer to Vancouver than a lot of people think.
Okay, so I'm gonna get up. I'm getting LA up right now. Okay, because
I feel like that's a crazy thing to say, but I just.
Well, no. Okay, so let's look at the Kings. Okay, Quick at his worst could be a solid thingy backup. Cal Peterson was good. He had like a 9-13 or something. That's a good young goaltender. I mean, defense-wise is a little like, okay, Christian Wolanin, what even is he? Bjorn Furt's 20. Michael Henderson, don't know quite who that is. Sean Walker is okay. Matt Roy is whatever. Ole Matt is whatever. Alex Edler is... Okay. I don't know how much I like this defense. And then Doughty. But then like forward wise, I'm like, okay, Dustin Brown's good again. Kopitar is Kopitar. Phil Deneau is amazing. Victor Arvidsson's good. Alex Iafalo's good. I couldn't tell you how well Athanasiou played. Adrian Kempe is, I challenge someone to tell me what Adrian Kempe is all about. Trevor Moore is a fine young player. Gabriel Velarde is a good young player. Grunstrom, who sees with him, and whoever else. But anyway, discussion for another day. I think we're good to wrap up. We've covered a lot.
I was just going to say the difference between LA and the other teams is that LA has depth.
And they were patient with what they were building. And
young depth.
Renaissance of their veteran guys who are not Jonathan Quick.
No, I don't think they were. The Kings were not patient. The Kings started to be patient. Then Doughty and Kopitar were like, no. And then they were like, okay.
Or play well.
And it's like, yeah. And then again, it's like, okay, we'll go make a splash. Anyway,
in conclusion, Drew Doughty's not in our Olympic games?
No, but if he was like a spare defenseman, I wouldn't complain about it because experience. Okay, I think that's everything.
Yes.
Thank you for watching and all that, or just listening, whatever. Check out all the show socials, our socials, all our individual stuff. You can check that out. We don't know if we're going to have an episode next week because we kind of had to struggle to scratch something together today because nothing's happening.
And we did a great job.
We did.
I think we did, honestly. Okay.
Almost went 2 hours.
Yeah. Voice Ed, thank you's always great platform. And that's it. Check out YouTube version. Check out TikTok, especially Facebook.
Especially.
Yep. Goodbye.